Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psychreg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Berney and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Today, Richard, we're going to talk about opinions. Yeah? You like opinions?
No, the reason I'm smiling is dangerously, every time these topics come up, my thoughts veer off to Washington, D.C. And we don't mean to. I mean, that's not what this is about.
And recently, it's been much more difficult.
With this new administration, this whole idea of alternative facts and, what is real and what's not real, all that has percolated to the surface.
Can I tell you something?
But that's not what we're doing.
Can I tell you something funny that I didn't think about until you said that? Is that I was watching one of last season's episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
And there was a couple of episodes, and they kept mentioning alternative facts.
Did they really?
Yeah, because they were in a last season. It was earlier this year. They were in this alternative reality. They were kind of plugged into a computer, so they're living in this created world, and they kept talking about alternative facts because it wasn't the real world. And I was like, oh, that's a
interesting,
pretty political statement.
Interesting concept.
By Marvel.
Right.
So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's sort of a little thing that. But when I first saw this, that was my first thought. It makes me think of Washington, D.C.
It does.
Or at least the executive. Well, the entire federal government right now.
Yeah. Well, this is from an article published in Psychology Today, just within the last couple of days, called "Your Right to an Opinion Does Not Make Your Opinion Valid," and it's written by Dr. Courtney Warren from UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I love that she starts out with the quote from Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci, that says, "The greatest deception men suffer is their own opinions."
And we would say men and women suffer is their own opinions.
Yeah, so it's what we're going to talk about today is this idea that, we're all entitled to our opinions. We've heard that since the time we were children. But we're not entitled to our own facts.
Right.
And that is, I think that's where the line gets blurry for some people, for some reason.
That's right. And we have the obligation. I wrote a note to myself months ago, and I was thinking about what we do in schools. We have the obligation to teach children that we have to rely on factual information, not just opinions.
Right.
I mean, that's what we should be doing in schools.
Right.
And it bothers me when other notions, other ideas are introduced in, and I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about other people's opinions.
Right.
Because the point that she makes here is that just because you have an opinion doesn't make that, she says, valid.
Right.
Doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make it right.
Right.
Okay. And we have the obligation to try to support our opinions with some kind of factual information, either data or scientific discoveries or research or something. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
And we have those arguments all the time.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion is, well, that's fine, but you're wrong.
Right. Yeah, and because there are facts that are facts.
Right.
And you can't, and I think that we talked about this once before. I think we did a podcast called Alternative Facts. And we talked about, the flat earthers.
Flat Earth Society.
Yeah, okay, so you can have that opinion, you can hold that belief if you so choose, but there is a fact, and the fact is that the earth is not flat.
Right.
So it doesn't matter that you hold that opinion, because that opinion does not change the fact that the earth is not flat.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to say all that. But so you're right. We can have opinions, we can have beliefs, we can have all of these things, but we can't confuse those opinions and beliefs with facts. We can't But what happens is we oftentimes, too often, I think, we get into arguments over opinions. We get into conflicts over opinions.
Right.
And we behave as though the opinions are true and valid and absolute. And so then my opinion becomes much more important from my perspective than your opinion. And this is where we get into conflict. We get into arguments and confrontation.
You can argue about your opinions forever.
Sure.
But I think what we should be teaching children is that, wait a minute, there's a way to settle these arguments. And that is, let's see what information we have on this topic.
Right.
What do we know? What have people unearthed? There are some people who believe that humans have been around for 4,000 years.
Right.
And yet there are monuments, there are structures that are more than 10,000 years old.
Right.
Who built them?
Right.
There are tools that are 200,000 years old.
Right.
They've been dated. I mean, if you don't believe in carbon dating, I guess you could argue the point, but carbon dating is pretty well established.
Right.
And so you're okay to have, if you want to have that opinion, that's okay, but let's not confuse it with factual information.
Right. And even if you want to say, well, what you're saying are that are facts, carbon dating, for example. You're calling those facts, but there's been some people who have shown that you can assess the same thing at two different times and get very, very different results, and so that shows that there's some flaws in that. That's a valid argument as far as it relates to, of course, the validity of that assessment. However, what I think that we fail to recognize is that arguing about beliefs, and I'm using the word arguing because that's different than having a discussion, that's different than having maybe even a debate, but arguing about opinions, arguing over your belief versus someone else's belief, rarely gets you anywhere that you want to be.
Exactly.
Because if the goal is to, for me to convince you that my belief or my perspective is correct, I'm not going to do that by saying only really saying that your opinion is wrong.
That's right.
I need to demonstrate support. I need to demonstrate evidence. And even with all of that, I may not be successful.
That's right.
And so that's an issue that I have with a lot of different worldviews, whether it's various religious worldviews or various political worldviews or various, just procedural worldviews.
Right.
The idea is, no, I'm just right and you're just wrong. And let's have a discussion about it. Let's not just
I have a cousin and we are on opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Right.
Okay. We're light years apart.
Right.
But what I always appreciate, and we've had some lively discussions, what I always appreciate about him is that he brings factual information to the discussion.
Right.
We had an argument about the national debt one time, and I said, well, this is what happened. And he said, well, also, and he had all this information about how the debt really occurred and who was responsible for it. And I said, okay, that's information that I didn't know. But he will bring all that factual information. Right. And it's not biased factual information. It's money. It's real numbers and real graphs.
Right.
And it's, well, this is what happened in 1985.
Right.
And so I always appreciated that about him, is that he always brought information to the discussion.
Yeah, I somehow I learned about this guy who's on YouTube who he was a science teacher. He is working to disprove evolution. He's working to disprove some of that. Right. And I've been listening to him and watching some of his videos, and it's interesting because he brings a perspective that is very scientific. Right. It's very interesting, and I think that is, if you're going to make headway, that's the way to do it. That's, again, we're talking about opinions, and sometimes there's that blurry line between opinions and facts. Right. But you're not going to... And while I love some of the things that he says, because I think it's... Not that I necessarily agree with him, but I think that he is... he presents some really good information that makes you think. he will then say, well, if you believe that, you're just stupid. And it's like, okay, you were doing so well.
Doing so well.
And I really like some of that stuff, but, and I know that he does that really for some of the provocative attention that you get for that. But it's like, if you had just left that out, what you're trying to say is so important and such an important thing to think about. And so again, we're getting back to we're kind of going off on tangents a little bit, but I think that this whole idea, I just don't understand why people choose, because it is a choice, why people choose to negatively affect relationships and negatively impact their life in general by arguing over things that I don't want to say don't matter, because to them it does matter, but just our opinions. It just doesn't make sense.
And I think every family can come up with incidents where 2 or 3 members of a family have been arguing, and I'll just say, I don't know why you're arguing about this.
Right.
Just look it up. I said, the answer to your question is available.
Yeah.
I said, rather than arguing with each other, look it up and let's see which one of you is correct.
Right.
Right. It is a question that we have the technology to answer these questions.
Right.
Let's look it up and figure out.
And if we don't, let's just get to the point where we say, okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. They're different.
Right.
Okay.
When you get to politics, when you get to religion, when you get to political philosophy, you're going to have different opinions.
Right.
It's not a question of who's right or who's wrong.
Right.
They are simply opinions. But there are some opinions that you could check.
Right.
To see.
Right.
Is this accurate? Am I thinking correctly?
Sorry, guys. The Earth is round. Sorry.
Right. I mean.
Yeah.
We have pictures of it.
That's right.
It's really round.
That's right.
It's really a ball.
Yeah.
And there might be 12 more out there.
12 more what?
Earths like ours.
At least.
There was an announcement yesterday from the scientific community that said there could be as many as 12 Earths.
Yeah.
Like ours.
This is
This is an aside.
This is a slight tangent. I'm sorry, but did you? I saw something the other day, and I'd never seen this before. I did not know that if you took all of the planets in the solar system and put them side by side, it would fit between the Earth and our moon. Think about that. I saw a picture.
All the planets in our solar system.
In our solar system.
Sure.
The moon is much farther away than I thought.
250,000 miles.
Yeah, but it's just, you don't really think about it that way.
Because
you think about...
What do you mean you don't think about it that way?
Well, because...
You mean because it seems so close?
It seems so close.
Oh,
and
okay.
you hear, to think about how much bigger Jupiter is than Earth.
Right.
It's hard to imagine that Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune and all of the others can fit between the Earth and the Moon, that it just seems like that they are so large as compared to the Earth.
Right.
And the Moon seems so close. It's just, space just makes my mind hurt.
No, it does.
So, well, that's...
And every atom is like the solar system.
Right.
Blows.
Now we could talk about RS and, atomic structure. That would be great.
Man.
We could talk about that a little
Fascinating stuff. And there's more space than matter.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh,
hey,
goodness.
Science talk here on the Mental Breakdown.
That's right. Bill Nye.
Bill Deny. That's me.
Bill Deny. No, you have to think about this stuff. I mean, be careful, because you don't want to argue about opinions. You don't want to. You don't want opinions to come to wreck relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's the message here.
Yeah.
And
if there's any, if you want to think of a really positive thing with technology, is that if you're having these discussions, you have
Google
a thing to answer probably in your pocket.
Google it.
My son and I, we get into these discussions like this all the time, and it's just, on our way to, a soccer match or something, we'll start talking about some of these things like infinite small. Infinite small just makes my brain hurt. My daughters and their mother argue a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It's just something that I guess moms and daughters find to argue about. Why not?
And I marvel. I just sit and listen to them, and I think, there's an answer to this question. Why don't we just look it up instead of arguing with each other, you know? But I think they sort of enjoy that little repartee or whatever they're
engagement.
doing. Mm-hmm.
Stimulation.
Engagement. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, opinions. So, so the moral of the story today is the Earth is not flat.
You know what we're going to talk about someday?
What?
Facts. We're going to muddy the waters Sunday. We're going to have a podcast on facts.
All right.
Because I know what some listeners are thinking.
What?
There are no facts.
Oh.
Okay.
That's deep.
There are no facts.
That's deep. All right. So, but the moral is, don't get yourself into a situation. Don't place yourself into a situation where you are arguing, where you're negatively affecting relationships and important connections that you have with people simply because of a differing in opinions.
Right.
Opinions are opinions. Everyone is entitled to one. Yours may be right, but yours may be wrong. But just because somebody else has a different opinion doesn't mean that you want to do anything that's going to negatively influence that relationship that you have with them.
And if you can't Google it, do your own experiment.
Right.
You're arguing about something. Okay, let's test and see which one of us is right.
Right.
Easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. So, all right. So that's it. We kind of meandered
a little on that one, but that's okay.
That's okay. So, all right. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, don't forget to be afraid.